Experts tell us that communication failure is the #1 reason marriages fail. Well, certainly communication is important, but good communication in marriage is not enough unless that communication leads you to a closer connection with your partner. That's because communication is not really the problem in marriage. Feeling disconnected is. You can have good communication and not feel connected. So communication is important because, of course, you can't connect without communicating, but what I'm saying is you can communicate without connecting. Sometimes you may communicate perfectly and still trigger your partner's defenses. Whenever defenses are triggered, the space between you becomes negative, and negativity makes a conversation unsafe, and that's what keeps you from connecting. So, whether it's criticism in your communication or a judgmental reaction to your partner's words, this kind of communication will prevent connection, and conflict will be the result. So, talking with criticism or listening with judgment can make any subject a contentious one. And that's when we blame our relationship failure on communication problems. On the other hand, when you talk in a way that leaves you feeling connected, you can more easily deal with every problem in your relationship. You can actually talk about anything if you do it in a positive way. The couples dialogue is a tool that will help you communicate in a way that leads to connection. Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt have defined a safe conversation as a way of talking without criticism, of listening without judging, and connecting beyond our differences. Let's consider how this can work for you. First of all, talking without criticism. Janet said to her husband, Rob, "You're going to kill yourself if you keep eating like that. You know that white sugar is poison." Communication? There's no question about it. Janet was communicating. She was crystal clear. But what do you think Rob's response would be to this kind of communication? He'd probably see it as criticism and react by judging Janet's intent as being disrespectful or controlling, right? "Stop telling me what to do. You're always trying to control me." And then this reaction would trigger further frustration on Janet's part. "You never listen to me." And this downward spiral with a critical comment goes on and on. A safe conversation can eliminate that. You can talk about almost anything if you say it in a respectful way without criticism. It's not what you say, but it's how you say it. Whatever you're talking about is secondary. As a safe conversation, you can move any cargo to where you want it to go. It's like a truck moving produce. The truck will deliver whatever it's carrying, whether the truck is carrying wheat or corn, beans or potatoes, it doesn't matter. In the same way, a safe conversation will deliver any kind of message you want to send. Appreciation, frustration, things you want, things you need from your partner. It doesn't matter. Like the truck moving the cargo, a safe conversation will deliver the goods. So what would that look like in their case? First of all, use I statements rather than you statements. Instead of saying you and then criticizing Rob, Janet could start by using I statements to share two things: what I saw or heard and what I felt. And then she could add any other thoughts or feelings that come to mind. You know, when I saw you eating donuts, I felt anxious. My mother had diabetes and died at an early age, and I'm afraid of something happening to you. Number two, watch the nonverbal messages you're sending. Often when you roll your eyes or you sigh or you glare, those kind of things communicate even more than our words. So it would be really helpful if Janet conveys a soft look in her eyes and speaks in a kind tone, because it's the nonverbal gestures that actually do most of our communication. Number three, regulate your own emotional reaction. When Janet speaks in this way, she's working to regulate her reaction. The fear that's driving this criticism, she's regulating that. And that gives Rob a chance to control his own reaction and perhaps listen with curiosity. So when you're talking, use I statements, watch your nonverbal messages, regulate your reaction to what you've seen and heard. These steps will do a lot to make the conversation safe and thus easier for you and your partner to listen and connect with each other. The problem may not be that your partner's not listening well. The problem may be that you're not communicating in a way that can be heard. So talking without criticism can make it safe to talk about even the most difficult issues. Number 2, listening without judgment. What's Rob's part in this? Rob stirred the pot, didn't he? By reacting with, "Stop telling me what to do. You're always trying to control me." He stirred the pot. What if he were to regulate his own reaction for the moment? You know, Jen is really a decent person. What if Rob were to become curious about what feelings are driving such an insensitive comment? The 3-part safe conversation model is designed to help you do just that. Here's what it might look like. Mirror, first of all. What if Rob simply mirrored back to Janet what she said? Mirroring says to your partner, "You matter. I may not like what you're saying, but what you have to say matters." And here's what that might look like. He says, "Let me see if I got what you're saying. You're saying that when I ate that second donut, you felt anxious. Your mother had diabetes and died at an early age, and you're afraid of something might happen to me. Did I get it? Is there more about that?" So checking to get 100% and then becoming curious about your partner has a powerful effect, making your partner feel like she or he matters. The second step is to validate. Validation is when you say to your partner, "You know, although I may see it differently, you make sense." And then you tell your partner what makes sense about what she or he just said. He could say, "Janet, you make sense. It makes sense that because you experienced such a loss when your mother died, you'd naturally be anxious when you see me not being careful about my sugar intake." Well, that makes sense. Does that give you the validation you need? Always check to see. And then finally, empathy is when you feel what your partner is feeling about the issue. He could say, "Well, I can imagine that you're feeling really scared. I felt afraid when the thought of losing someone, and I know that feels really bad." Empathy enables you to be present with your partner in the midst of their fears. This enables you to connect emotionally on a deeper heart level. This will also bring a measure of healing to the wound that's driving your partner's fear. Because the greatest opportunity for healing occurs when our deepest emotional pain surfaces and our intimate partner is present with us, fully empathizing with us. Number 3, connecting beyond our differences. As Rob and Janet connect, their differences over diet may not change. But empathy will enable them to connect beyond their differences. You say, "Well, what if I can't accept the difference? What if it's not just an addiction to sweets? What if it's addiction to, say, alcohol?" Well, then it may be necessary to ask for a change in behavior. But in my experience, Rob will be much more open to Janet's request if they feel connected. On the other hand, if they continue being defensive and feeling disconnected, the fight will go on and on and on, right? What about you? You too can learn to communicate in a way that leads to closer connection with your partner. How? By talking without criticism, listening without judgment, and connecting with your partner beyond your differences.